All right. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for inviting me. Although yeah, it's very early here, and I'm also in the midst of another conference. I hope you are hearing me. If you can't hear me, let me know. Um, it's nice talking about women in innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship. A sub theme under the major conference that is well titled and well programmed. This is an international conference on gender parity and inclusivity. Um, it- as a father of two daughters, I think when I got this invitation, I within the midst of my busy schedules, I said, no, I have to do this. I have to find a way to do this because we've been, for the past 2 or 3 decades now, we've been talking about gender parity and inclusivity and also the equitable treatment of especially women in the social, economic, and the political spaces. But my job here, I know where this topic tends to be a little bit partisan, politically partisan now, but I want to approach this topic from the technology and intellectual property perspective. How we could leverage the ambit, the width, the bandwidth, so I would say, the bandwidth of intellectual property regime and policy to accelerate women's strength and capacity to cover the fields and level the playing fields, especially in the economic spaces. Now, the World Economic Forum, in a recent report, says that there is let me look. Let me confirm that figure that I saw, which was scary. That there's about 1.7 billion dollars in terms of parity in between men and women when it comes. The report claims that the finance gap for women entrepreneurs is $1.7 trillion. Think about that. One the gap, finance gap for women entrepreneurs is 1.7 trillion. That's a lot. That's a lot. So how does intellectual property come in here? Now, in the era of AI, AI has democratized and liberalized the mode of productions in terms of, in the era of the artistic works, in the era of literary works, meaning writings, books, movies, content creation on online, YouTube, which we are familiar with, on our social media. Those are all part of what intellectual property, especially in the digital era, has enabled in astronomical percentage. It's easy now for any creative person to create a content and monetize those content online. Now these are the people who regard as small, medium entrepreneurs. Now, of course, you have to start small before you get to a bigger industrial capacity. So, how can you use all what I've said, the intellectual property regimes. We have intellectual property, so many of them now. We have copyright. We have, I'm sure you know about them. We have trademarks. Those are the traditional trademark, a patent, designs. But now we have so many divisions of intellectual property because of the digital era, because of technology. Even geographical indications is part of and is part of intellectual property. And the global south, which India and Nigeria and Saudi Arabia is part of the global south, we are very rich in terms of those traditional content, traditional, our culture, where we can, adapt into animations, which is part of what technology could do. In fact, now, like in countries like Nigeria, Ghana, we have seen creative people turning their indigenous folklores, indigenous traditional landscapes. They are now using it as in form of animations and posting them in where the common man can always post, the social media. Now you don't need $something million to shoot a movie. You can shoot a movie by your cell phone. You can shoot a content by yourself. And so those are the product of the era we live in, the digital era. So and this digital era comes with digital intellectual property regimes. So I believe that if we as scholars, if we as lawyers and subject matter experts in this field take a more active role, not just I know we are doing a lot in writing about these issues, like conferences like this, but we should be in the forefront, especially our female subject matter experts, our women who are doing who are in the spaces of intellectual property. But they should be in the place to advise talents, skillful talents, women who are skillful, on how to protect their ideas from the mind to the lab and to the market. There are laws. I'll give you an example. I'm going to use the movie industry, the film industry, which is one of my areas of research, as an example where a lot of things are going on right now. A lot of women are creating, are directors, are producing strong movies, effective movies, and profitable movies. And what are we talking about? Parity, entrepreneurship. We're talking about the ability for you to be effective in terms of economics, also to be effective in terms of the social significance of what you are doing in changing the directory of society. So in Nigeria, we have what we call Nollywood. I'm sure you've heard of it because it's an adaptation from Hollywood and Bollywood. Bollywood is India, and Nollywood is Nigeria. Nollywood is, I would say, from the statistics and from the research I did, actually, there are a lot of women now in the forefront of the industry. And this is an industry in the 70s, even as early as the early 90s, it was populated by men. Men were driving the industry in terms of the ownership of their products. So, and I believe strongly that it's about time that yes, the injustice, the inequity is there. We want our women to be at the same level because it's all about social justice, it's all about economic justice, and it's all about creative justice. But I believe strongly that it's about time women are at the forefront of driving this engine of, like they say, you have to take your destiny in your hand. And we have enough intelligent, enough creative, innovative women in both the legal field and also in the creative field that can do it. Going back to the story of Nollywood, now we have a lot of directors now, award-winning female directors from Nigeria. And if you look at the trajectory of Nollywood industry, like I said, it was mainly occupied by the men. Now, if care is not taken from my personal research, in the next 10 years, I'm sure if the production is going on the way it's going on, and the investment from our participation of the women creators and producers and entrepreneurs in that industry, they might even outnumber the men, which would be good for once if there is a good parity or inclusiveness in a subsector like that. But that's the movie industry. What about in the technology industry? Now, we are talking about, everyone is talking about AI now. AI is a popular topic now for good reason. But now, every time I study, I read about AI, I'm always looking for who are the players, who are the owners of the companies, or who are in charge of the AI systems. And sadly, in the global south, we have not really invested enough money in that industry to be one of the players. Because at the end of it now, by the time the dust is settled on regulations, on policy-wise, on the direction of how AI is going to be, AI has come to stay. AI has a lot of positive. One of the things about AI is that it's going to drive the financial and the industrial base of the future. And if women want to attain the parity with the male folk, or be at a place where we are not going to be talking about these issues of inclusivity or parity, then our women should either you bind together or you start looking on how to invest in the industry, how to own the companies that are going to be in charge of generative AI systems, predictive AI systems, and the ones that we don't know that is coming now. We should be at that place, just like the women folks now are in other sectors, integrating into the finance sector, the agricultural sector, and the service delivery sector. They should also be more engaged in this new emerging space of AI. But the question comes back, okay, women don't have enough money like the men because traditionally they were not given the opportunity to maybe make as much money as the men folks. There are citations where women are not paid the same. A woman is paid less than a man is paid for the same kind of job. Well, those things can be true. Those things are true. But however, you have to take charge. We have to take charge. Women have to take charge. How do you take charge? We encourage more of our girl child, the women of the future, to go into these areas, to study, these areas, to work in these spaces. And I'm so glad that there's a lot of awareness, there's a lot of visibility by the legal academia and the non-legal academia on bringing these issues to fore. But my theme is that it's about time. It's about time we don't just stay and, in quote, wail and whine, in quote. It's time at the verge of the fifth industrial revolution. I think women have the capacity within them, within their own influence, to take charge of this movement now. You have to influence your political system. You have to influence your social system. You have to influence your economic system. Nobody is going to do it for women except women take charge of their own destiny. And for people like us who have daughters, who have wives, who have girlfriends, I'm sure it is also our responsibility to do what we can to move this ball further down so that it's not just going to be inclusivity or parity just in conferences. We want to start seeing it in the books, in the law books. We don't just want to also see it in the law books. We want to see it be implemented. We want to see women being at the head of political and social and financial organizations, because when you are there, Bob Marley, I'm a creative scholar. Bob Marley I don't think Bob Marley really was the one that popularized that saying. So, if who wears the shoes knows where it pinches. So, because it's a peculiarity that only women know. This injustice cannot be felt by any other person except the women folk. Until you are in front, the issue of innovation, the issue of entrepreneurship and inclusivity in all spheres of life as we are now might still be where we are. And I'm one of those that believe that we can take it from where we are now to actually take your goods, take your skills, take your products to the market. But don't forget that one tool we have is the current judicial intellectual property regimes. They are there for us to use to protect as talent, to protect our money. Because when you have those ideas on how to take, for example, your products from the market to upscale them into a larger market, you will need to know the basics of the current contract on the digital platforms, the smart contracts, wrap contracts. Those are all products of intellectual property. And if women are not well advised by subject matter experts, which I believe a lot of women should go into the field of IP now. We should encourage you to study that field, because a lot is going on in that field, and you'll be able to do well by also taking your knowledge and putting it in practical terms, so that perhaps we would not have to wait for 10 years. In 5 years, there will be true inclusivity and parity. I'll have to stop here now, because I know we should have an interactive sessions, and thank you once again, and while I wait questions from you. Thank you.